Hello everyone and welcome to this video or podcast, depending on how you're watching it. My name's SJ. I'm the co-founder of All Call Signs, and we wanted to put together this panel for Mental Health Awareness Week and just talk about how we can use the tools and mechanisms that we're taught to get ourselves from a bad place into a better place in terms of looking after our own mental health, and use those to continue through to taking on that success mentality and actually making our lives the best versions that they can be. I'm joined today by Dan Arnold, Glenn Haughton and Brian Wood, who will introduce themselves in a second. I'm sure their faces are familiar to you. First of all, guys, thank you so much for joining us on this. I hope that you're all well, and we'll have a little talk about how we're coping in lockdown in a second. But first of all, if we could just introduce ourselves. So Brian, are you happy to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. A lot of you will know me. I'm Woody, former colour sergeant within the 1st Battalion of Princess of Wales's Royal Regiment. Spent 17 years as a frontline soldier, and now I work for myself. I'm the founder of Keep Attacking, and I have, until recent, been travelling the globe, believe it or not, sharing my experiences. So hopefully once this pandemic goes back to normal, I would continue to travel, and it's an absolute pleasure to be on this with some absolutely inspiring legends.
Awesome. Cheers, Woody. Glenn, do you want to go next?
Yeah, everyone. Glenn Haughton. I'm what's known as the SEAC, which is an abbreviation for the Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chiefs of Staff Committee. Best way to describe it is essentially the Sergeant Major or the Warrant Officer for Defence. Senior warrant officer across the military that covers all the three of the services off, and I'm also the Armed Forces Mental Health and Wellbeing Champion, something we've never done before, but because I suffer from my own poor mental health at some stage, I decided I wanted to do it, and that's pretty much what takes up a lot of my time now. Been in for 32 years, and who knows where the future's going to take me, but I'm loving my role at the moment, and hopefully I can help out and give some words of wisdom or some top tips to some people that are listening today.
Awesome. Dan?
Hi everyone. Hello mate. Yeah, so hopefully you'll know who I am. I'm Dan, the other half of SJ professionally, the other half of All Call Signs. And yeah, again, lived experience of mental health. I have PTSD. I'm very much going through it every day and try and use my experiences and stories to advise other people to avoid all the pitfalls and bad stuff that I did.
Awesome. So I just want to kind of spend a little bit of time. Glenn, you mentioned there that you're kind of mental health champion. Could you talk a little bit more about what that actually involves? What does that bring to your day to day?
Yeah, I've got to say, it probably takes up about 70 to 80% of my time, and I'm quite pleased about that. Essentially, because I work in the Ministry of Defence, I get involved heavily in the policy side of it. So each of the services that some of the listeners will remember they were a part of, and also Defence, now does a lot more than it used to do in this space. And it's almost unrecognisable to a lot of listeners that might have served some time ago. So what I try and do is I try and help and give guidance in the policy that the Ministry of Defence sets, which goes out to the services and then influences how we train and prepare soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen and women for the future, for their mental health, fitness, strength and resilience. I also do a lot of signposting, do a lot on social media, particularly Twitter and Instagram. And I see, I'm no expert and I'm no guru in mental health. I'm just somebody like the rest of the panel that have had their moments with mental health. And I just felt like I wanted to help people. So I do a lot of that stuff on social media and just signpost and ping people to certain areas or try to inspire them to look after themselves. And it's part of my daily battle rhythm to help and hopefully elevate others and to stop them going into the same pitfalls that us four did.
Amazing. So, I follow you on social media and see a lot of your stuff, and you spend a lot of time advocating wellness, mindfulness, and meditation and things. Are these things that you've picked up from your role, or are these things that have helped you in the past and that you kind of now bring into it to other people?
No, so like all you guys on the panel, I grew up in a very male-dominated, alpha male, macho environment in the infantry, and I prided myself on being a machine, never ever thought I'd suffer from poor mental health. And after about 28 years of being in, I suffered mental health and got diagnosed by the doctor. I had no idea it was coming, but literally caught me out of the blue. And it wasn't PTSD or trauma-based stuff. It was literally burnout. And from the moment I was diagnosed, I had an epiphany, a eureka moment where I knew that I had to change my lifestyle, because all I'd done was just run every day as far as I could, as fast as I could, with as much weight as I could, like infantry soldiers used to train. And I knew I had to change it. I never trained my mind once. I'd never trained my spirit or my soul. And I realised from that moment, my epiphany moment, I had to come up with this trilogy in my own head and start training myself differently. And every day now, and every day since that diagnosis, I've trained my body, my mind, and my spirit just as much as each other. And that's the kind of stuff that I do on social media. I try and inspire others to do that. And I do fitness is my daily routine. I do it every single day. I meditate every day, or do mindfulness, and there's different ways that you can do that. And I know you guys do the same, and we can talk about that later if you want. And I just look after myself, which is something that I didn't do before. I took it for granted that I'd be all right because I was a machine. But mental health, as we know, doesn't discriminate, and it can catch anybody out at any time, and it called me out.
Amazing. I mean, Brian, I follow you closely on social media as well, and you're always kind of doing your videos, your lives whilst you're doing your fitness, going for runs around the lovely area that you live in. What are you doing to kind of focus on your head as well as body?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Glenn, religiously, I'm out every day. I have to. It's my medicine. Some people need whether it's tablets or whether it's prescription stuff, and it helps them. For me, it is my fitness. It's just so important to me. It kind of gets my heart rate going in the morning. It's them endorphins. It just gets me thinking and clears my head. And also, do you know what? I plan the week ahead of me. I believe, honestly, it's crazy to even say this, but I believe I can kind of take on the world when I'm out running. I just have such a clear vision, and it just makes me feel really good. And then I can get in from that run and then start chipping away at my day, because already, we always talk about, the kind of the mental side of your headspace, but the physical side of it is so important. They kind of go hand in hand. And I believe if you look after your physical fitness, it then in hand takes care of your mental health to a degree, because there's still a lot of work to be done upstairs. But yeah, I mean, I love sharing some of my stuff, and I know other people on this panel does the same. And the feedback that I get, the personal messages that I get, I will continue to do what I'm doing. Like, some of the banter that comes across is, "Oh, Wood, I don't even watch you anymore. I just scroll past." But that's fine, because it's not really supporting them. But the messages I get for support, and how you've helped change me, how you've helped get me where I'm at the moment, I will continue to do that, because even if it was one message, it's one person I'm supporting. So then I should continue to do that. And like I said, it really, really helps me out. And talking about my own experiences, my own sort of legacy feelings, and even now some of the feelings that I'm going through during lockdown, because I haven't got it perfect, and some of the emotional feelings have crept back in because of uncertainty. A lot of my income was traveling the world, sharing my experiences. It comes to a halt. So I'm the main breadwinner at the moment, and I've got no work. It's all been cancelled. What do? Do I play victim? No. I need to think outside the box. I need to, as my brand status, keep attacking forward, because there is other ways we can do things. But it has added a little bit of stress, a little bit of anxiety and uncertainty. But if you're happy and willing to have the courage to talk about that, it becomes easier to navigate. And there is a navigational factor, without a doubt, because I'm no guru, I'm no oracle of your mental headspace. I've done I've had a few struggles in the past, but I've not let that define me. So because I've got the experience of my past, I can now figure out what we're going through at the moment. And it's still tough, but we're managing. We've not got it perfect, but yeah, we're managing.
And that's the thing, isn't it? I don't think anyone ever has these things down to a T and perfect every single time. But I think it's about, again, using those techniques and stuff that you've been taught to manage poor mental health or, mental ill health, and being able to take that second to breathe and take that kind of moment, the condor moment, if you like, and then go, right, okay, we need to pivot. What can we do to kind of improve the situation now? It's a massive advantage to have those tools in your box that you can kind of bring out at these times of stress and crisis. So, I mean, it's great to hear that you're able to do that and pivot and move forward and continue to succeed and keep attacking, as you say. Dan, Glenn mentioned there about kind of other things outside of PTSD that affect a lot of people. I think the general belief within the military community especially is that when we talk about mental health, we're talking about PTSD, but we've seen through all call signs that, you know, that's not necessarily the case, and there's so many other things. Can you just talk a little bit about some of the other kind of mental illnesses that are affecting people that we see, and try and kind of include all of those different kind of aspects into how we deal with things, because we don't just focus on PTSD, do we?
No, not at all. And you're completely right. There seems to be this whole ethos out there that mental health is just mud, blood and guts. And it couldn't be further away from that. From dealing with people with anxieties, and anxieties can range in a whole manner of things, really, really poignant at the moment with being in lockdown and the possibilities of coming out of lockdown. There's a lot of talk about kind of anxieties about reintegrating back into society and leaving. But typical conditions that we'll see coming through are anger issues, anxiety, depressions, eating disorders, things that stem from childhood, things that come from military, and really it can manifest in any particular way, whether that's as extreme as kind of self-harm right the way down to just being kind of self-doubtful and very self-critical because of anxieties of where you are within your life, your career, your appearance. There are so many contributing factors that can build into someone's mental health, and it's completely different from individual to individual. I'm sure you'd agree, wouldn't you, mate?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the negative kind of thing is massive. As we know, kind of within the military community especially, the idea of ripping piss out of each other is how we show affection. So you get a lot of people kind of coming at you all of the time. And if you're in a good headspace, you can take that on the chin and you can laugh it off and you can shrug your shoulders and you don't really worry too much about it. But if you are of low mood and you're in a down space anyway, having that critique constantly can get into your own mind to the point where you start thinking, are all of these things true? Am I not good at this? You know, am I bad at my job? Am I failing? And all of those things can all get inside. When we're looking at lockdown, especially, we're talking about different kind of mental illnesses and things. Adjustment disorder is going to be a huge one. So bearing in mind that, you know, a couple of months ago, we were all just going about our daily lives, just trying not to cough on other people because we were aware that kind of there was this virus going around. And then all of a sudden the switch flipped and now we're all at home, like working through Zoom and on our computers and just trying not to spend the whole day on Pornhub. So we've gone from kind of one extreme where we're working, you know, collaboratively together, spending all of our time together, to just having that completely taken away from us. And it's obviously going to take some time to adjust. And then on the other side of that, we're now looking at maybe coming out of isolation. So that again, you're just as likely to get some kind of adjustment disorder coming out of it as you were going into it. I think one of the things that we all need to be a bit better at, and I know it's been a personal kind of journey for me, is just being a bit kind to ourselves and just allowing ourselves that time to adjust and understanding that actually no one's got this 100% right. This isn't easy for anyone. Just because we've been in rough, tough situations before doesn't mean that we should feel embarrassed about finding this difficult. Dan, we've kind of spoken extensively about kind of our own issues and traumas and things that we've had in the past. For Brian and Glenn, and either one of you jump in, is there a point where you can look back on where you can go, that was the point where I kind of went, enough's enough. This is the point where I need to do something to change my life. What gave you that kind of that drive to finally reach out and start making those positive changes that you needed to get back into a better headspace?
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in if you want. I've already touched on mine. You know, I thought I was this machine that was unstoppable and I could just keep going the way that I was going, and I'd done it for the best part of my career. And I was almost proud of that fact that I'd never suffered from mental or poor mental health at any stage. And then it literally took my legs from under me and completely caught me out. And that was my changing point, as I already mentioned. But I've got to say that this lockdown period, going back to your earlier point, I found it really difficult at the start. When you think of my job, it's proper people facing, it's pressing the flesh, it's out and about. It's like Woody's, you know, there's lots of social events, lunches and dinners and awards and charity gigs and all that kind of stuff. Then all of a sudden, I was sent home like a naughty schoolboy, and I literally got home and felt like I had no purpose. And I was in everybody's way at home. I couldn't work out, you know, I felt like one of those people that just wanted to sit around in my lounging pants and eating chocolate peanuts all day and just, you know, not even having a shave. That's what I felt like. And then I just knew that I had to get a grip of myself, carry on with what I was doing and get into this routine. And that's when I came up with my COVID rule of 10 that some of you may have seen, which literally is a mantra, because I love living by rules of 10 and a mantra, and I live by that mantra every single day, and it keeps me going. And it was literally my changing point. And I've got to say that although a lot of people are concerned about people's perhaps poor mental health from lockdown, my mental health really benefited from the lockdown period, spending time with my family, not having a 3-hour round trip commute into London. You know, I've got more time to do my work. I've reached more people. I've had more beneficial outputs through doing the virtual kind of stuff that I've been doing. So it was a real changing point for me. And I've appreciated is a wrong thing to say in the current climate, but personally, I've got a huge amount out of it, and I'm certainly going to look at the way that I change my ways of working in the future.
Yeah, I can't agree strongly enough. I was in therapy running up to lockdown and just saying I'm at burnout, I'm at critical, like I physically can't do any more. I'm traveling here, I'm doing this. And the therapist kept saying to me, you need to take time out, you need to do this. And my excuse was, I can't, I'm too busy. I've got this on. And then lockdown happened. And like you say, after a period of adjustment of like, right, what are we doing here? I found that I was spending more time with the family, being more productive. All right, granted, we haven't got travel time, like you say, but with some real foresight and structure. And I think that's probably one of the things that everyone should take out of this is to learn. Don't need to travel halfway up the country for a meeting when it can be delivered in this sort of fashion. So, yeah, I think everyone should be learning and adapting from this and taking some positives out of it.
Yeah, SJ, my spark actually was, I was in Care Went as a colour sergeant instructor on the Royal Marines Senior Command course. So I was fortunate enough to be one of the few to go down to Lympstone and be a colour sergeant on their senior div. And it was a great opportunity, but there was so many underlying issues that I hadn't dealt with. And I was marking a movement order with another colour sergeant. And he, without any notice, opened up about his own situations and his own experiences. And the biggest thing was how he had to go and seek some support mentally and what that looked like. And I couldn't believe what I was actually listening to. And it inspired me so much that 100%, that dialogue, that conversation encouraged me, inspired me to go and knock on the door. And I was in foreign territory. I was in a naval establishment, Royal Marines in Lympstone. I didn't know very many people, which actually probably would have benefited me and did benefit me not knowing that many people because I was well known within my regiment. So maybe it was easier, but there was still, you know, that how are they going to look at me different? Are they going to RTU me because they think I'm not mentally fit? So I was still fighting the demons in my head before I took that step and knocked on that door, on the commandant's door. And he opened the door, invited me and sat down. And then I just went off on probably about an hour and a half on how I was feeling. I can't understand why I'm still feeling like this after so many years. I was still going through the inquiry, going in and out of London at this period as well. So I was in and out of like the office of the solicitors and going through statements, and it just everything kind of got to the boiling point. I wasn't being very nice at home, and when I poured all this out, he let me finish and said, "Hey Woody, do you reckon you're the only person that's been in here today regarding some legacy, sort of mental sort of illnesses or poor mental health related conversations?" He's like, "You're probably the sixth person, and it's fine." And do you know what? He made me feel that I was still someone. He never judged me. He was actually really kind to me, and then started to give me the guidance and advice. And I'll never forget that conversation. It really helped me. And I then, from that conversation, knew I needed to start the growth journey on understanding why I feel like this, going to seek some professional help on the sort of coping mechanisms, how I can get to phase 1, whereabouts phase 2, and how long potentially that's going to take. The family, allowing them to be, in on this kind of circle and understand that, there is, there is some problems there within the family household. Talking to the family about it, which is still difficult now, if I'm honest, but I'm better at it. And because that, so long story short, my biggest turning point was in care, when in that compound and listening to an incredible, inspiring man just talk about his own personal battles. And then I thought, do you know what? I'm so like that, but I'm nowhere near where you are, and I need to get there, because I can see how good it's made him, how better of a person that he now is. And I was nowhere near where he was, but on the facade, I was trying my best. So anyway, that was kind of the start of my journey, really.
And we talk a lot, like, thank you for sharing that. It's kind of, we talk a lot about courage breeding courage, and like having the strength to kind of come forward, especially as men, but also being in part of the military community. I think it can be quite difficult to come forward and admit when you're struggling or when you need help. And that's obviously an example where his courage to kind of share with you his own traumas and issues has been beneficial to you. What I kind of took from that, which I find really interesting, is when you went in and talked to someone and he was like, you're like the 6th person we've come through. So you must have been surrounded by these people that are all struggling in some way with mental ill health, but then you still manage to somehow feel like you're the only one, like you're the exception to the rule. Why do you think it is that we struggle so much to open up to our friends and our colleagues about when we're struggling?
Do you know what? You may correct me on this, but I think there's so much has changed from 2009 or 2010 when I knocked on that door to where we're at the moment. I think the awareness on mental health, mental resilience, mental fitness, health piece is so much better. There's so much more awareness. There's so much more to be educated, and there's programs being rolled out all over the shop. I've been over to Cyprus myself. I've been to Tidworth, Bulford to go and share some of my experience. It's never been better, but there's still so much more work to be done. And I think we're chipping away at it. I really do. And Glenn would probably be able to spin more of it, because he's a lot more involved in what I am. But from an outside looking in, and to what I see on social, I follow all of the Ministry of Defence on social media, and it's getting spoken about. Even in my small village in White Hill, people are still communicating on this whole, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to have an off day. It's okay to have an off month. People, do you know what? And I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent now, but there's this 25 and 25 happening at the moment. I'm on day 24, and it is been, so it's basically 25 press ups in 25 days to raise awareness for not just PTSD, it's the mental health bracket as a whole. And I have been so overwhelmed with joy, really, to see so many people being involved. I mean, I look up to so many people who I see, who I've not seen for God knows how many years, taking part in this challenge, but also opening up about some of their legacies or the troubles that were in that lockdown, which is really putting them under pressure now. And it's just, I just think it's a thing of beauty. I really,
absolutely,
it's really empowered me to continue to be an advocate and push forward. But I mean, I've sort of really, a long-winded point is, we're not there yet, but it's the best I've seen it for so many years.
I've got to say, SJ, that I'm not just saying it because of the job I'm in, I genuinely believe that the Ministry of Defence, the services, the military as a whole, are one of the leading organisations in our country for raising the awareness and the toolkits that we've developed for our service personnel. I think they are absolutely fantastic. But like Woody says, you can provide all the tools you want, but getting people to use them is another thing. So, the point that you made is, how do we get people to speak out? That's the difficult bit, and it's breaking down the stigma, because no matter what you think or what you say or what experience you've had, the military is still a male-dominated, macho environment. And for whatever reason, people will quite happily go to a doctor and get their broken leg fixed, but they won't happily go to a doctor and get their broken mind fixed. And some people are just embarrassed about it. Some people think they've got to live up to this macho environment and show their subordinates that they'd never be weak enough, as they describe it, to have a mental health issue. And that's just ridiculous. And that's why I think it's so great that, particularly in our SF community, you know, your Foxies and all the former guys now that are Woody and everybody else that are now got a high profile, that are talking about this. I think it's fantastic. And that's why I kind of did the mental health champion bit and shared my story as well. Because when knuckleheads like me, when someone sees a knucklehead like me talking about their mental health issue, then they realise that they can talk about it the same. You know, it's the first step to recovery. So for me, like Woody says, I'm completely with you, mate. It's about breaking down the stigma. The toolkit's there, the awareness is there, and I'm really proud of what we're doing. But it's getting people to actually do it.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think it's the same as when you see kind of like the FA and sports stars and boxers and people that you would look up to as kind of being the big bruisers, the kind of the hard men. It's when they come out and say, wow, I was on the bones of my arse because of this issue, and it was only through reaching out and getting help that I was able to start making a positive change. When you've got people like Tyson Fury coming out, and again, like the SF guys coming out and saying that, you know, had they not dealt with their mental health in a good way, there's a good chance that they could be dead now. That's a real wake-up call for anyone looking at that might be of low mood or experiencing mental ill health, to go, do you know what? If they can reach out, then so can I. So yeah, massive. Again, thank you to both of you for being so vocal on mental health issues, because I think it does help a lot of people come forward and speak where maybe beforehand they wouldn't have. And just to the point on military as well, so we definitely are seeing an improvement from within ranks, in the sense that we see more referrals now coming through to all call signs from individuals that are in unit themselves, or from the units themselves, who are kind of reaching out to all call signs in order to improve their mental wellness, which is huge. Beforehand, it might have been that it was only at the point of crisis, or when that person had done something to endanger themselves or somebody else, that it's recognised and then the referral is made. Now it's more of a case of, you know, I'm going through something. I'm not quite at that point yet, but I'm certainly in a place where I could use some improvement, and people are reaching out earlier, which is fantastic, and it's what we want to see. I just want to talk about then how we move forward and go not just back to when we're in periods of low mood. That tends to be when we reach out and start building up this toolkit in order to feel better. But actually what I've found, if anything, is that I'd say over the last year or so, my mental health's been quite consistent, but I've still been relying on these tools in order to kind of take myself off the other end of the spectrum, if you like, to increase my productivity, to make me a better father to my children, to try and do more with my time. And I want to know if there's any tools that you've been taught or things that you've come across in periods of low or poor mental health that you now employ religiously anyway, just to kind of keep yourself at the top end of that spectrum. I think I'd agree that, you know, all three of you are very successful in what you do. What tools help you be successful in that way? Dan, would you want to jump on that?
I think from myself, you know, I learned that when you struggle to get out of bed every day and you have to muster that strength to literally lift your head up, get up and motivate yourself when you're low, to maintain your mental health, I'm not saying it's always good, I'm still going through it, it goes up and down, but I try and channel that kind of energy. That is a massive amount of energy, but channel that into positivity. And I do that in a few ways: by surrounding yourself by people that are good for you, that are going to put good into you, by putting good into yourself every day, by doing breathing techniques, meditation, nurturing. There's a book I read by an American guy, and he likens your heart and your head, like Glenn said, your spirituality, to a garden. If you have a garden out the back of your house and you don't ever do anything with it, it quite quickly becomes overgrown. It looks really out of shape and no one wants to spend any time there. If you spend 5 minutes a day, you just trim the hedge one day you like turn over a bed, another day you plant some seeds, you water it every day. Eventually you're going to have somewhere that's really nice to be and really nice to spend some time in. And if you think about your own kind of mental health and spirituality in the same way, it makes it so much easier to kind of be in your own space and be happy, for want of a better word. So surrounding yourself with positive people, limiting the negativity around you, whether that's media, press, and things like that. And like you rightly said earlier, it's not being so hard on yourself. I think I, like probably most of you, are a really harsh critic of yourself. Like, sometimes you're going to drop the ball, but beating yourself up and sending yourself backwards because you've done that isn't necessarily the most productive thing. Looking at it quite pragmatically and being like, all right, why did that happen? What can I change? And I think something that's really timely at the moment as well is you've always got a choice in everything. Within lockdown, you were quite vocal at the beginning, SJ, about, all right, we've got a choice. I can sit there, I can throw my toys out the pram, bang my feet and go, this, I'm not happy, or go, right, what I've got now is a perfect opportunity to go still, take a condor moment and plan. Where do I want to be? How am I going to achieve that? And how am I going to push forward? In absolutely everything that happens to you, you have a choice in how you react. If I leave here and someone cuts me up, I've got a choice. I could swing him the bird and try and get out and batter him, or I can be like, mind how you go, see you later, and just get on. I can always control how, not well, let's have that right, but I always have the ability to control how I react in that situation. And I think the same's true of everything. Always draw on the positives.
I just want to touch on one thing that Dan said there. When we first started, right, we'd be going down the motorway to various events, and people would be honking and kind of bibbing at us, and he'd get proper irritated. He'd be like, "Oh, geez, well, get from up my arse," and whatever else. And then it just turns out it's because we're in a decaled van. People are seeing the All Cool Signs logo, and they're just trying to show support. And it's like you've got him red-faced hanging out the van, trying to, yeah. So it's nice that he's kind of come round full circle and kind of.
True story.
Yeah. What about yourself, Glenn? Kind of, what's your experience?
So I use a few things, mate. First one is routine, exercise, mindfulness, meditation, and the most important out of all of them is sleep. And I know it's easy for me to say about sleep hygiene and how important it is. And I know some people, particularly listeners, will struggle with their sleep patterns. I've always struggled with my sleep, never going to sleep. That's always been easy. But I've always been a 3 o'clocker, 4 o'clocker, 5 o'clocker, and I'm still not great now. But I make a point of getting 7 hours sleep a night. Not every night, but as much as I can, because it's the key to everything. It really is. And the other thing, or other 3 things I talk about, firstly, is not worrying or dwelling on the past. It's not worrying about the future. It's being in the present moment. And even if that present moment's not the way you want it, you've got to concentrate and work on that present moment. It's all about focusing on the present moment, breathing, and being happy to be alive, because that's what it's all about. The future and the past actually don't exist. So there's no point even thinking about them. It's about now. And the last thing I'd say that I really focus on, other than positivity, which Dan's already mentioned, which I'm massive on as well, is acceptance. And I think acceptance is the key to much happiness. Because it's easy to fight everything and get angry about everything and buck up against everything. But if you just accept it for what it is, and if you can't change it, you can't change it. And that's the way I try and live my life. And I live by mantras, as already said, and it gets me through the day. And I try and encourage others to do the same.
Amazing. Glenn, you mentioned there about meditation, and I think that's one of those words that can put a lot of people off. It tends to kind of put a picture in your head of kind of hippies holding hands and daisy chains and stuff. When you talk about meditation, what is it that you're referring to?
So I used to think anyone that meditated was a weirdo, was a hippie. But there's three different types of meditation in my book. One's guided, where you can listen to some dude speaking to you on an app like Headspace or YouTube, getting you to go through it. There's silent meditation, where once you've got used to meditation, you can take yourself off into a quiet space or into nature and use your breathing techniques like Dan's already mentioned, and just get yourself in the zone and live in that present moment. And then there's what I'd call daily battle rhythm mindfulness and meditation, which is what I do. And I just live it all day long. You know, ever since lockdown in particular, even more, I'm a real one for nature anyway, same as Woody said. I now notice birds singing in my garden that I never noticed before. I've now noticed flowers and plants and stuff growing in my garden that I never noticed before. When I go for a walk with my dog, I listen to the birds singing. I listen to the water going under the bridge. It's all about being mindful about some of the beautiful stuff that's out there and not worrying about the thoughts that are in your mind. So there's 3 different methods you can do, and I use all 3 of them. I meditate every single day, normally in the morning, because if I do it in the evening, I just get my nut down, and that's just going against what meditation should be. You should be at that point just before sleeping. But I do it religiously every day. And sometimes I'll do a long one, sometimes I'll do a short one, but I swear by it.
When you're kind of sticking to those structures and routines, for anyone that's kind of starting this or looking to start and get into some healthy practices to help them, it can be difficult to try and implement those things into your new routine. Have you got any tips or advice about how you can kind of bring those things in?
It seriously just takes time and it takes practice. So some people just say, oh, I can't meditate, my mind's too busy. That's literally the whole point. The whole reason for you meditating is to stop your mind being so busy. And I can just give you a very quick one now. The meditation would go on much longer. But just as an idea, if you just imagined yourself stood in a stream and the water of the stream is coming down towards you and you're stood up and the water's to your waist, and you just breathe in for 3, out for 5. And all those thoughts in your head that you're not happy with are swirling around like they're in an eddy in the river and they're going around your waist. And then at a point when you're ready, what you do is you take your suction pads off the bottom of your feet and you walk to the side of the river, you grab the grass, you get out and you sit on the side. And then what you do is you watch those thoughts literally go down the river, long distance, all the way down the river till they go over the edge and down the waterfall and they disappear out of your vision. And then what you do is you focus whilst you're breathing in for 3, out for 5 on the clear water that's going from left to right. And if the thoughts come back up from the waterfall and eddy around again, you just watch them disappear. It's all about observing your thoughts. It's all about breathing. It's all about watching the thoughts and not living them. And if you just practice that and practice your breathing, like Dan says, and these type of exercises, it will slowly come. And you don't have to do it a long time. You can just do 5 minutes.
Yeah. And with meditation as well, if you're kind of just getting into it, it's something that you want to look into. Headspace and things like that are really good. They're guided meditation apps. So if you're someone who's kind of a bit pessimistic about whether or not this is going to work, and you're sitting there and kind of those things can help because they stop you thinking things like, this is stupid, this isn't going to work. And they stop you giving up before you've had a chance to really benefit from what's being done. So do give things like Headspace app a go, and then you can move on to other types of meditation and just see what works for you. I think the big one is that it's horses for courses. There's so many different techniques that you can use to get out of your head and into your body and into nature and into your environment. It's about finding the right ones for you. So it's similar to when people say, oh, I don't like reading. I say, well, it's not that you don't like reading, you just haven't found the right book. It's the same with mental health. It's not that it doesn't work for you, it's that you haven't found the right technique. What you need to do is keep driving forward, keep exploring, and remain positive that there is a solution out there that's going to work for you.
Completely agree.
What about yourself, Woody? Is there anything that you kind of take into your day to make sure that you stay focused and structured and are able to move on positively?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's been covered already. I mean, early doors, I listened to Glenn's Rule of 10, and actually I took so much away from that and implemented it into my own life. And I heard that early doors when he done a podcast on Declassified with Michael Coates. So I extracted a lot of information from that and tied it up into my own routine. And but what I focus on a lot at the moment is giving back. I mean, it's so important to forget about I don't know, maybe the act of kindness when we're going through such a difficult period at the moment. But and I'm not just saying it's always been my nature to try and give something back. For years I've supported, my regimental benevolent fund, and I continue to do that with every sale of my kit that I sell. I donate to the benevolent fund, sort of doing fundraisers which are really important. Jay Baldwin, a very good friend of mine, lost both legs in 2012 and then went through an absolute epic journey on trying to beat cancer. And I wanted to do something for him, so spontaneously ran 3 marathons in 3 days. But I managed to give something back to him. I managed to do something, and it's that act of kindness or something small is a huge difference. It's a small challenge or it's a small change, but it is actually a massive difference. And especially in these times that we can actually cocoon, take everything in, just focus on the family, which is important because that's rule one. But actually, you can still do something, whether it's be a local delivery driver, whether it's dropping stuff off, whether it's spending extra time with your kids or with the family. And it's just trying to figure out the good in a demanding situation that I've taken more of a focus on during this lockdown. But there's been so much great advice out there, which it's definitely helped me, but it's been hard. And we spoke about before we went live on this, it's been challenging, for me and for the family with what's going on. And my youngest hasn't taken to it very well. He's trying to support him, be a bit of a guidance, and put my arm around his shoulder and saying it's okay to feel how you're feeling and be upset and you miss your friends. And if he feels he's never been on his own, he's now all of a sudden on his own all the time. And it's hard. He's not doing his schoolwork. He's always struggling to get into his schoolwork, and he's coming to the end of his year before he goes to junior school. And so he's just missing school. And I'm no absolute expert by any stretch. So I've been trying to figure out. That's been my biggest challenge, if I'm honest. The routine structure and dealing with myself, I've been on top of. I'm up early. I'm cracking out with my to-do list, where my vision is, my goals. And actually I've got dream at the top of that, because everyone should have a dream. But on the side of it, I've got other things to deal with, which I've found a little bit more difficult, with how to homeschool, how to raise morale with the kids when I don't really understand their schoolwork, or I don't really understand what they need, because I haven't been around them in this much time, even though I'm loving it, because we've connected and we've rebonded to a degree. But I've struggled with that educational element and giving them a real sense of purpose. But we're grinding it out.
And that it comes back to Glenn's point as well there, doesn't it, about acceptance? I think it's very easy to kind of get into that mindset where if things aren't perfect, then they're not right. And it's accepting that this is a difficult transition for every single person going through it. And just want to kind of bring us around to an end. So firstly, thank you to everybody for kind of taking the time. It's gone a little bit longer than we originally planned, but I think it's good. I think we've covered some good stuff. Just before we log off then, Dan, could you start us off? If there was one piece of advice that you could give the people that are watching this, that are sat at home, maybe on lockdown, maybe they're key workers and their kind of workload's gone through the roof, maybe they've been furloughed and their workload has gone completely down to zero and they're struggling to find ways to fill the day, and then their own kind of mental issues and their own thoughts are kind of getting to them a bit. What advice would you give to somebody that might be experiencing low mood in lockdown in order to get back on top of it and to get back onto an even keel?
I think communication's key in every aspect. Now, there are so many platforms out there for you to talk about it. You could turn to whoever you live with, your partner, your parents, and talk about it to them. There are loads of things out there like Shout, Samaritans, like loads and loads of different little groups that will allow you to have a voice and talk about what's going on. And I think as soon as you start talking about it in whatever aspect, now that doesn't even mean that you have to take that out to someone else. I was talking to someone the other day and I said to them, start vlogging. You don't have to put it out there, but if you're feeling that way, just start recording it, doing a bit to camera every day and keeping like a diary. I personally find that easier because I don't write too good because I'm ex-infantry like we all are. But just making a video of where you're at, and then you'll be surprised that in 6 weeks when you look back and you can have a look at it, you see how far you've come. But it's almost taking it out of here and putting it somewhere. So downloading it, whether that's on page to someone, or you can't underestimate how much of a invigorating feeling that is to get it out of here, make sense of it, and you start learning about yourself as well as you do.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I think a lot of times the first time that you've either verbalized something, whether it's to yourself or somebody else, it's the first time you've actually made sense of all those thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
You've had to articulate them, and that's done you a world of good just to hear that back and understand that this is how I'm feeling. So yeah, totally agree with that. What about yourself, Glenn? Any advice?
For me, 3 words, mate: motivation, inspiration, and elevation. And I spend my day trying to do those 3 for other people, to motivate them, inspire them, and elevate them. And all of us, including us 4 on the panel, have got people that look up to us, be they children or family members or friends, and everybody is in that similar position. And the joy I get, same as Woody, the joy and you two guys, in the business that you run, the joy that I get from elevating others is what keeps me motivated. So if you can just find that somewhere inside yourself, forget about the future, forget about the past, concentrate on the now, breathe and be happy to be alive. And that's the best advice I can personally give.
Amazing. Woody, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, look, don't be too hard on yourself. I'm, like I just explained, it's been tough for me, but I'm learning, and I'm definitely going to take some lessons learned away from this whole period of lockdown, especially the whole, working with my kids, and just try and be kind. I mean, it does, when someone, I don't know, when someone's nice to you, it makes you feel good inside, doesn't it? If someone just says, and I'm not the best at it, but I'm trying to get better, like, you look nice, or well done for doing that, I'm really impressed, it uplifts you. And we don't do it that often, but when we do, it does make a difference. So for me, it would just be, look, you're not the only one. If you are struggling, you're not the only one out there struggling. Trust me, it's been a demand, but you should just keep smiling, be kind and keep attacking.
Absolutely. I mean, the only thing that I'd add to that then is absolutely be kind to others. It releases the same chemicals in your brain as doing sports and things like that, being able to empathize with other people, be considerate of them and be kind to them is going to have a positive impact on yourself. What I would say is that practice that same mantra inwardly. So be kind to yourself. If you're saying things in your mind to yourself about you that you wouldn't say, you wouldn't dare verbalize to somebody else because you know how detrimental that could be to their feelings, their mood, then have a word with yourself and kind of go, okay, is that really helping me? Look at that thought objectively and say, is that valid? Is it fair? And is thinking that helping me in any way, shape or form? If it's not, what else could I be doing instead of just having that negative thought that could move my focus into something more positive? And I think that's going to really change. If you do even just that, it's going to have a massive effect on your life, your well-being and your overall success and positivity towards life and any situation really, not just lockdown. So with that, I mean, I just want to thank the panel one more time. Glenn, really, really appreciate your time. Brian, thank you again for being here. And I wish you every success with the Keep Attacking brand and everything that you're doing. And I hope you can get back to kind of traveling the globe and telling your story and continuing to inspire people as you have done long into the future. Dan, as always, it's a pleasure. And anybody else watching this that might be struggling, if you're from a military background or you're currently serving and you need any help or advice, by all means, please feel free to reach out to us at All Call Signs. We'll be more than happy to help. If you're watching this from a civilian aspect and you're not really sure where to get help, you can call 111 and they will guide you towards local community mental health services that can help you regardless of where you are in the country. So do make that call if you feel like it can be useful. A lot of the stuff that we've spoken about in this episode has been around wellness, meditation, whether that's guided meditation, breathing techniques. A quick Google will give you a million hours more information on all of these different subjects. So if that's of interest to you and you're looking to build up your toolkit for better mental health, do go away and have a look at those things. There are some links below this video if you're viewing this on the website that will help you get started. Just once again, thank you to our panel, and we look forward to joining you for another video soon where we can talk about all things mental health.
Cheers, SJ, mate. Thank you.
Thanks,
Cheers,
mate.
Thanks, mate. Good to see you, boys.